Mount Sinai, also called Horeb, towered in the center of the Sinai Peninsula as the highest peak in the chain of mountains, surrounded by a dry and barren desert, where there were no cities, palaces, or magnificent structures, and it was this place that God chose to meet with his people, despising all human achievements and setting his throne on the top of a wild rock covered with thorny bushes. It was the same mountain where 3 months ago Moses saw a burning bush, but not a burning bush, and where God first revealed his name to him and called for Israel to be led out of Egypt. Now the promise was fulfilled, and all the people came to the foot of this mountain, freed from slavery by a miraculous hand. In the 3rd month after the exodus from Egypt, after crossing the Red Sea, experiencing the miracle of manna from heaven and water from the rock, 2 million Israelis set up camp in the desert opposite Mount Sinai. And this was not a random stopping place, but a destination planned by God even before Moses came to Pharaoh. The Lord said to Moses on the same mountain by the burning bush, "This is a sign to you that I have sent you. When you bring the people out of Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain." And now this prophecy was coming true before the eyes of all the people. When the people camped at the foot of the mountain, Moses ascended to the top to offer a prayer of thanks to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And there the Lord gave him a startling message for the Israelites. "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I carried you as if on eagle wings, and brought you to myself. Therefore, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my inheritance above all nations, for the whole earth is mine, and you will be with me a kingdom of priests and a holy people." It was a covenant offer, not coercion, not violence, but a free invitation to enter into a unique relationship with the Creator, to become a special people among all the nations of the earth. When Moses conveyed these words to the elders, all the people unanimously replied, "We will fulfill everything that the Lord has said." They agreed to the covenant, not yet knowing all its conditions, but trusting God, who brought them out of slavery and performed miracles before their eyes. Then the Lord announced that in 3 days he would descend on Mount Sinai in front of the eyes of all the people. But at the same time he gave strict warnings. Moses had to draw a boundary around the mountain and tell the people, "Beware of going up the mountain and touching the sole of it. Anyone who touches the mountain will be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but they shall stone him or shoot him with an arrow. Whether it be cattle or man, he shall not live." For 2 days the people prepared for a meeting with God. They washed their clothes, refrained from intimacy with their wives, and sanctified themselves spiritually and physically, realizing that they were facing something unprecedented in the history of mankind, a direct encounter with the Creator, a visible manifestation of his glory that could kill anyone unworthy or unprepared. The entire mountain was declared a forbidden zone. Even an animal that accidentally wandered in there had to be killed from a distance without touching, because the sanctity of God's presence made the place itself deadly to all unclean things. On the 3rd day, at dawn, something happened that the world had not seen before or since. The entire Mount Sinai disappeared in thick clouds of smoke that rose up like smoke from a huge furnace, because the Lord descended on it in fire, and this fire was not an ordinary flame but a manifestation of God's glory, so intense that just looking at it could kill. Thunder rumbled continuously, lightning cut through the sky, illuminating the smoke and fire at the top, and the sound of a trumpet, not a human trumpet, but a supernatural instrument, grew louder and more piercing, until it reached such a force that people covered their ears, but the sound penetrated to the very depths of their being. The whole mountain was shaking so violently that it seemed as if it was about to collapse and collapse on the camp below. The earth was shaking under the feet of 2 million people. Stones were falling off the slopes, and Sinai itself, despite its hardness and rocky nature, melted from the face of the Lord God of Israel, according to a later description in the book of Judges. It was an earthquake of such magnitude that was felt not only near the mountain, but probably throughout the region, and the surrounding peoples could see the fire and smoke on top of Sinai, wondering what kind of cataclysm was happening in the desert. Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain, trembling not only from the earthquake, but also from awe at the greatness of what was unfolding before their eyes. The mountain was on fire. A thick cloud enveloped the top, and out of this cloud, out of the thick darkness, came the voice of God. Not a quiet whisper, but a voice that could be heard above the thunder, the earthquake and the sound of a trumpet, a voice from which the people stepped back in horror, because they realized that they were not hearing a prophet, not an angel, but the creator of the universe himself. Out of the fire, smoke, and thick cloud the 10 Commandments sounded, not written on stone, but spoken aloud by the voice of God in front of all the people, and each word entered the hearts of people with a force that both attracted and terrified. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. The first commandment established the basis of all the others: monotheism, exclusivity of relations between Israel and Yahweh, rejection of all pagan deities worshipped by the surrounding nations. Then followed the other 9 commandments: the prohibition of images of God, the prohibition of taking the name of the Lord in vain, the establishment of the Sabbath as a day of rest, the command to honor parents, the prohibitions on murder, adultery, theft, perjury, and envy of one's neighbor's property. A brief but comprehensive moral code that will become the basis of Jewish, Christian, and to some extent the degree of Islamic ethics. These 10 sentences, uttered from a burning mountain, changed the trajectory of human civilization, setting standards of behavior that have persisted for more than 3,000 years. But the people could not bear this direct communication with God. The intensity of his presence, the power of his voice, and the greatness of his appearance were too great for fallen humanity. And after the 10 Commandments, people called out to Moses, "Speak to us, and we will listen, but God must not speak to us, so that we do not die." They retreated away from the mountain, standing in the distance, trembling, and from that moment on Moses became an intermediary between God and the people. He entered a thick cloud on the top of the mountain where the Lord was staying, received laws and ordinances, then descended and passed them on to the people. After giving the 10 Commandments and additional laws, God called Moses to climb the mountain again, this time to receive stone tablets on which the Lord himself would write the commandments with the finger of God. Not a metaphor, but a literal description of how the Creator would carve the letters on the stone with his own power. Moses went up the mountain with Joshua, his young assistant, leaving Aaron and Hur to lead the people below, and the cloud of the glory of the Lord covered Mount Sinai for 6 days, and on the 7th day God called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. Moses entered the middle of the cloud and ascended to the very top of the mountain, and there he stayed for 40 days and 40 nights, without eating bread or drinking water, being in the direct presence of God, receiving not only tablets with commandments, but also detailed instructions for the construction of the tabernacle, a portable temple that would become the seat of God's presence. Among the people, during these 40 days, Moses received drawings of the Ark of the Covenant, the altar, the lampstand, the table for the shewbread, the priestly robes, and the order of worship, all with precise dimensions, materials, and manufacturing methods, because the tabernacle had to be built exactly according to the pattern that God had shown him on the mountain. But while Moses was in the presence of God on the mountaintop receiving holy laws and instructions, a tragedy was unfolding at the foot of Sinai, which will show how quickly the human heart can depart from God. When Moses lingered on the mountain, and 40 days had passed without his return, the people began to lose faith and demanded of Aaron, "Make us a god to go before us, for we do not know what has become of this Moses, who brought us out of the land of Egypt." They forgot that it was God, not Moses, who had brought them out of slavery, and they demanded a tangible idol that they could see with their eyes and touch with their hands. Aaron, to his eternal shame, yielded to the demands of the crowd. He collected gold earrings from his wives and daughters, melted them down and cast a golden calf, a replica of the Egyptian god Apis, or the Canaanite Baal, built an altar in front of him, and proclaimed a feast. The next day the people sacrificed to the idol, ate, drank, and indulged in games, a biblical euphemism for orgies, sexual promiscuity, and pagan rituals that often accompanied idolatry in the ancient world. All this took place in direct view of Mount Sinai, which was still smoking and burning with the presence of the God who had given them the first commandment, "Thou shalt have no other gods," less than 2 months ago. On the mountain, God told Moses, "Make haste to get down from here, for your people have corrupted themselves. They have quickly deviated from the way that I commanded them. They have made themselves a molten calf and worshipped it." And the anger of the Lord was so kindled that he said, "Leave me alone, that my anger may be kindled against them, and I will destroy them, and make a great nation of them. You be resistance worse." But Moses stood up for the people, imploring God to remember his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, pointing out that the destruction of Israel would be a triumph for the Egyptians, who would say, "He led them to destruction," and the Lord reversed the calamity he had thought to bring upon his people.